What were you guys? So was I just talking to myself
the whole time.
the whole time?
You look great.
The whole entire time?
The whole entire
And y'all just letting me go hard? Like I was into it.
We were in the chat room just cracking up.
Yo,
like,
check the private chat. Check the private chat.
I'm done. Wait. Now I'm looking at the private chat like, oh. I thought people were commenting. I was like, I must be going hard. I thought it was the audience. People say she's chatting her ass off. I'm done. I am absolutely done. I did a phenomenal introduction, by the way. So those of you,
it looked great. It really did. It looked great.
I'm absolutely flabbergasted. Welcome to CTN Media, everybody. If you watched my silent introduction, thank you. Thank you for tuning in to CTN Media, where we continue to challenge the narrative. We're excited to be here with you again on a Takeover Tuesday with one of my favorite teams, the best out there to do it. It is 7 Generations Black, a podcast powered to equip and inform you, clear your lens, and present you with a new perspective. Now, the whole team's not here today, but we're still going to do this thing right. We're going to have some great conversation. So welcome, my guy, Lethal. I know Jice Johnson will be joining us in just a little bit. I'm Shay J. We're 7 Generations Black. What's up, Theo? I don't know where you're at right now, but we'll see you soon.
Get a little diva thing going on with Jice. Like she's just showing up anytime she wants to show up.
You see how this thing is starting to happen? You feel it? Yeah. Okay, as long as you feel it, then I can't say it because when another woman says it, it's like, oh, now they're in competition. Who can be more diva? Like,
I'm starting to get a Lauryn Hillish,
just kind of, sort of. She doesn't own the Masters or anything. That's why we're going to keep doing this show with or without. So, thank you guys for joining us. We appreciate it. Yo, we're in season 8, episode 6. I don't know how it got this far, but one thing I do know is that we're powered by the beautiful audience out there. So please keep supporting independent media. Super chat us up. I don't care if you give $2, $2,200, $20. Super chat us up. Show us that you support independent media. Press thumbs up. Hit us in the comments. Share how you feel. Let us know what you want to hear us talk about. We're here to create this conversation for our people, our culture, and push the culture forward. So you guys keep rocking with us and share this out with somebody new in your network that has not tuned into 7 Generations Black. Today, we are tackling the American dream. I don't even know what the hell that means at this point. But America has sold us this is the best place in the world to live, even for us Black people. Even though we have failing healthcare systems, failing schools, failing relationships, drug epidemics, a housing crisis, a broken political system, and a widening class range of what we call the wealth gap. But somehow we've been bamboozled, or have we? How does the selling of the American dream keep us from exploring healthier, more viable options, even as individuals or as a collective? What does this really look like? We're going to dig into the American dream today. Now, you audience, this is your last chance. After this, there's no turning back. This is your opportunity to stop listening and tune out now. If you do, the story ends and you wake up in your bed and believe whatever you want to believe. However, if you take the 7 Generation Red Pill, you stay here with us in a liberatory discussion, and we'll show you just how deep the rabbit hole goes. The choice, as always, is yours. Welcome to 7 Generations Black, the American dream, y'all. What does that mean? So can you even tell me what the American dream means? Is it real? Is it a thing? Like,
I'm
scared to say that, even the American dream. Like, I'm like,
I have
allowed to say that?
I have to really know who initiated this topic, because that will give me a really good idea of how far down the rabbit hole. See, this seems like a lethal setup conversation. And so this could go really deep and 5%-ish down the rabbit hole, Wu-Tangish, if it came from my dude Lethal. Is this your topic, Lethal?
Nah, this ain't my topic. But it's about the propaganda of the American dream.
Yeah.
And so to first assess what the American dream is, you have to understand the meaning or the etymon of the word dream. You understand what I'm saying? So what is a dream?
Come on.
A dream is nothing but a series of thoughts and thoughts, images, or sensations that occur in your mind when you are asleep.
Yeah.
So knowing that's what a dream is, then ask yourself, what is the American dream?
That's fair. That's good.
I had to see if Lethal. Now watch me and Lethal go 5% on your ass. Real quick.
All right, let me hear this. Let's go.
So here's the deep thing. So he just said it's a dream, right? But the truth is we know that most people are part of the 85, or what they call the 85, which are deaf, dumb, and blind, which is a form of sleeping in and of itself, right? So then do we have to be deaf, dumb, and blind in order to even buy into the American dream in the first place?
Welcome, Diva. We're so glad to have you here.
Oh, there she is.
Now that you have joined us, whatever time is your call time, it's fine. Now, the American dream, before we get too deep into this, I just want to hear your first thoughts when you hear the American dream. What even comes to your mind? Bullshit. What does that even mean to you?
Well, I don't know what it used to mean, but it's meant bullshit for a long time now.
That's pretty fair.
But can we say, and if in the light of Theo not being here, I totally agree with Theo's assessment that America is a fantastic place. And when I say fantastic, I just mean one-dimensional. And raising up your cheddar, getting your money hustle together, if that's what you're going to do. Now, even with that said, let's be clear. Most Black people, brown people, Asian people that come over here to get their cheddar up, they generally get grinded out by the machine too. Let's be very clear about it, right? Like, even though that's the case. So are we going to look for a redeeming quality of America during this conversation? Is that... Or are we okay? All right.
I mean, you can. That's the beautiful thing about 7 Generations Black. Those of you tuning in, you never know what you're gonna get from this panel. We might be on total different wavelengths today. I might have to really mediate. I don't know. So I would like to really hear some real perceptions. When we started to look at the American dream, it was really hard for me today to see the American dream as I'm tuning into these trials that I'm going to have to cover. So I'm looking at this Ahmaud Arbery trial, and then I'm looking at this Kyle, whatever his name is, Rittenhouse, whatever the hell his name is, his trial with him shooting the protesters. And I look and I'm watching my nephews that are now taking this in and watching this thing. And I'm trying to understand, how do you be a Black boy and a Black girl in this world and still believe in the American dream when you constantly see people that look like you die from jogging or Skittles or maybe a counterfeit, $20 bill or whatever that looks like. But we keep, fantasizing of what this could be for us in America.
Yeah.
Like, help me unpack. How does this?
Good. Yeah, that was
where
good.
Does it sit?
I think that last statement is the most brilliant statement, because there are a lot of us that are bought into TikTok, Instagram. Even if we don't see it as Leave It to Beaver, we still see it as Shaquille O'Neal, or we still see it as Jay-Z, or we still see it as Robert Johnson. We still see it as, you understand what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So, like, we've updated that there is a narrative that exists primarily in the Black community that still says that despite it all, that there's no better place for us to be than here.
That's because our people don't understand the meaning of words, and they don't accept that words have meanings, and the meanings of those words matter. You understand what I'm saying?
Word?
For example, redeeming. Redeeming means compensating for someone or something's fault. Has America ever compensated Black America? Absolutely not. White America will make the argument that the passing of those so-called Reconstruction era amendments to the Constitution, right, was good enough. But if it was good enough, right, those Reconstruction era constitutional amendments, if they were good enough, then why 100 years later did we need to have Civil Rights Act and Voting Rights Act, et cetera, passed? I mean, they weren't good enough. You understand what I'm saying? Because there was never any redeemingness or redeemable qualities about America. We've just been asleep.
So, Lethal, do you think that the streets, and I think that's the best measure for us, do we think that the streets believe in America?
I don't know what the streets believe in now. I mean, when you think about it, right? To me, the streets have sold out, bro. You understand what I'm saying? Because I'm from the golden era of hip hop. You understand what I'm saying? I know what it means, you know, that era of why hip hop was started and the culture, not just the music, but the culture. You see what I'm saying? The culture now, if you turn on World Star Hip Hop, you know, they're actually out there promoting fights and whatnot between males and females. When was that ever part of the game? When was that ever a part of our culture? You understand what I'm saying? And I'm speaking specifically about the subculture of Black America.
Yeah.
Beating up on women was not a part of that culture.
Yeah.
You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
If you did that, you literally got your ass whooped. And there's some of us out there who will still whoop that ass if they see you running up on a sister, attempting to conduct yourself in that manner.
Yeah.
You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I don't know if the streets, I don't know what the streets are about now. I don't know what the streets are up to. I don't know what the streets are doing.
So then who are we talking to?
Who are we talking to?
That's a great question. Who are we talking to?
Yeah, who are we talking to, Jice? Like, and I don't disagree with nothing that Lethal just said. I really don't.
You don't?
I mean,
what type of show is this? Wait a minute.
I mean, what would I eat? Like, I'm not Candace Owens in this motherfucker. Okay. I'm not. What could you possibly disagree with what he's saying? He's right. Like World Star Hip Hop, TMZ. That's where he's right. That's where the streets, for the most part, are. I mean, I just watched this beautiful interview with Kanye, but it's on a show called Drink Champs. Since when did drinking alcohol of various sorts from around the world and getting faded as we were interviewing great hip hop minds become the marriage of where we're going to break this down? So no, I don't have no.
So I think that's such a genius perspective, because as we start to look at when you say the streets, because that's literally how we found our culture, right? Now it's like, what are the streets promoting? What are they showing us? Literally, everybody is so sedated right now to even be able to make it that I don't feel like there's a common denominator. There's not even a common conversation that's telling us what is the American dream? What are we looking for? What do we believe in? Because everybody's so sedated. Like, it has to be that.
Sedated, so sedated. I love that. I love
that.
So
what is the American dream, right? Let's take a look at that.
Let's until that.
The American dream is the ideal by which equality of opportunity is available to any American, allowing the highest aspirations and goals to be achieved. Bullshit.
Right. I already said what I felt like, what it was, and it's been like that for a long time. But I think when thinking about the American dream, right, it is that kind of concept of there is a lot of opportunity that exists, and I think it's like propaganda globally, right? Because it's not just that we believe this. I mean, there are people that are coming from other countries that believe that America is, this golden land of opportunity, right? So it was one streets paved with gold and, this, that, and the other. But what they find when they get here is not that, but they also have an infrastructure in which they can return to, right? And so to your earlier point, or Theo's point around, the opportunity to make money here, part of that is the currency exchange rate, which I'm going to be interested to see how that fluctuates as Bitcoin is more or cryptocurrency, comes into play. And as we keep printing all this money, based off of the good faith of the American government, what is our dollar going to look like in that exchange rate? But that being said, what I'm thinking about when I think about the American dream is that they promote it as this space of opportunity. And there is a concept that it is a space of opportunity, right? That I think that there is some truth in the concept and idea that there is opportunity that's here. I think we see that from an individual perspective. I know definitively that we do not have those same opportunities as a socioeconomic group, which means thinking 7 generationally, our children and our grandchildren don't have those opportunities at large, not without obstacles. It's not free.
Jice, to that, I want to ask a question because, we often get in this space as we try to build independent media. So I hope somebody's going to shoot us, super chat us up at some point. As we're building Black media, we're building these Black conversations. We get to this point. I know Lethal has said it before, like we don't have a community. We don't have those things. So a lot of us have been forced to think in an individual mindset. So is someone wrong if now they see the opportunity of having the American dream when it comes on an individual level? Like I can say individually, everyone around me is absolutely thriving, right? They're doing things that people said we could never do. They're holding positions that people said we would never be able to hold. They have bank accounts that people said Black people don't have, and they're not selling drugs, and they're not selling their soul, and they're not selling out. And individually, they are thriving. So how do we now look at those people and have this same conversation when they're saying, yo, I'm doing well, and y'all just aren't on the same train as me? Or it's not my fault that we don't have a leader, or we can't get together. There's no culture or community. How do we have those conversations and engage those people because they want to be a part of the conversation?
So that's a very simple conversation to have, because the absence, it's not the complete absence of Black excellence showing up. And Jice alluded to this. It's as a collective. And so we as Black people culturally don't measure ourselves on individual wins, right? Like I love there's this video that shows like this white USAID worker went over to Africa and told all these Black children to run around the tree, like they were trying to get them to compete. And as they started to run around the tree, or they started this race, they all grabbed hands.
Yes.
You seen that?
Yeah, I've seen that. It's phenomenal.
That's part of African indigenous culture, that we're not competing against each other. So the fact that we have Black people that are doing, and let's be clear what we're talking about. And when we're talking about success, all we're talking about is that there are people who are navigating the system successfully financially, but that says nothing of how they're navigating it as far as their health. That has nothing to say how they're navigating it as far as their relationships and the efficacy of those relationships. It says nothing about those things. It's only America that would have us focus and say, oh yeah, my cheese is great. Yeah, your cheese is great, but your daughter was on World Star in a bathroom full of 90 niggas. And you know what I'm saying? Like, that's not, so we have to really, so the conversation with someone would say, yeah, but there's an Oprah, there's a Michael Jordan, there's a Michael Jackson, yeah, we do, and we applaud them. It's no shade, but that's not the measure of success for how we are doing as a community. Because as I said last week, I just found out when I hosted a panel a month ago at DU that in the last 18 months, while the largest transfer of wealth was taking place inside of this country, Black people are more engaged in homicide and suicide in our communities than any other time since they started collecting the data.
Why is that so?
Because what the pandemic did was expose the system for its inability to address those that are on the bottom of it. So let me give you an example. This is why Democrats and the Democratic setup is so fucking dangerous to Black people. Because while New York shut down, supposedly shut down the gyms, the after-school programs, the places for Black children to be, you could still catch a plane with 150 white people sitting less than a half a foot next from each other. So, or the money machine didn't shut down, but the net that catches and supports Black indigenous people shut down. But the Democrats use that as we're taking them into safety. Well, if that's true, why the fuck are you telling us to stand 6 feet from each other? But as soon as I hop on a plane, I can't watch this fool pick a booger without it being flicked on me and me being infected with COVID. So it doesn't equal each other. It's bullshit. It's liberal bullshit to why they are. So what they used the COVID for was to cut the bottom and to continue the austerity measures that they have been instituting in this country ever since the late 70s. That's what is happening. So now all these social nets that were there before, that shit's gone, bro. There ain't no after-school football, basketball, hoop programs, art programs. There's no gym. There's no city. And guess we're in a city, by the way, Jice, you and myself, that is run by Democrats. And we see them shutting that shit down in this city. And they're Black Democrats at that.
I was just about to add that part. I want to, there's two things I want to go back on. Actually, there's one thing I want to correct and one thing I want to go back on. The first thing that I want to correct, I was looking for this because I wholeheartedly agree with this statement. It's the McMichael and the Brian trial. It's not the Ahmaud Arbery trial.
You're right.
He's not on trial, right? It's the McMichael Brian trial.
Yes.
And the fact that I couldn't even remember who these murderers' names were, right?
Yes.
Like that bothered me. So anyway, I just want to throw that out there. But I want to go back to something you said, because to your point, there's an Oprah that's doing good and a Michael Jordan that's doing good and whatever. But part of the other reason why I think we struggle is because we don't have context in terms of what that looks like. When you add the Robert Smiths and the Oprahs and the Michael Jordans and the Kanyes and the Jay-Z's and the Beyoncés and the Rihannas and whoever else you want to add into that list, when you add all the Black wealth put together in this country, it is a fraction, to include our Black billionaires, a fraction. It is minuscule compared to the amount of wealth that white people have accumulated, and in particular to the amount of wealth that white people have accumulated just in the last decade when we have been under Black Democratic leadership, which is why I feel like we keep having to tell our community that Black Democrats are not the answer, and that doesn't make white Republicans the answer. It means Black Democrats are not the answer. We need to go back to the drawing board and we need to figure this shit out, because that ain't it. But that being said, when we don't have the proper context, right, we look at big things as being, small things as being big things. So when we're talking about what this dream looks like, when we talk about people who are doing well, yes, we're doing well, but well in context to what, right? Mm-hmm. Because when we think we're doing well, there's a whole nother side of some shit we ain't never even seen. Those folks that's doing well ain't touching yachts, ain't touching jets, ain't touching mansions, ain't touching multiple homes. They're not touching a whole lot of stuff that these other folks are touching, and what they're not touching art. That's something I've been talking about, trying to figure out. I've just been trying to figure it out. White people have assets in art. We don't even know how to value art. We'd be mad about buying a $10 print from a Black artist, much less do we even think about how to actually value art and hold on to it, right? When our art is being held in places like France and other countries as these valuable assets that they think we don't even have the ability to touch because we don't know how to handle our own artwork. So there's a space in which we are, what I feel like is that we are missing out on opportunities because we have been fed this space that no matter how shitty it is here for us, we're doing better than what we would be doing somewhere else. It's better than having flies eat out our eyes in Africa, despite the fact that Africa is a rapidly growing continent with 54 countries, I think, 53, 54, someone correct me. But like we're so ingrained to thinking that this is the best place to be. And that's what when I hear about the American dream of Black people, it's not that I think that the American dream itself exists. It's the idea that when I say something like, I'm thinking about moving to Ghana, there's shock. Why would you go to Africa? You want to move where? Right? And any country. I just had a conversation with a good friend who spent a week in Colombia, who has a friend who's moving down there looking at property. The first thing that comes out is, well, the cartels. So we don't have I just want to be clear. We don't have drug problems here in America. I'm lost. Help me understand, because I grew up in East Oakland. So I am not worried about the car motherfucking tells. Like, I don't understand how we don't see that there's opportunity in other places that could advance us or get us further, allow us to create communities, allow us to amass wealth in ways that we can't do it here. Because no matter how shitty they treat us, no matter the fact that they keep calling it the Ahmaud Arbery case from a man who was taking a fucking jog, taking care of his health, right? Like that, it doesn't matter.
So here's the thing I think that's going on, right? I don't think that we as a collective have come to the realization yet that while we can share the same bed, we cannot share the same dream.
I agree.
And that's actually a proverb from our ancestors.
That's
we
good.
can share the same
that
bed.
Was a proverb.
Yeah, you understand what I'm saying? We can share the same bed, but we cannot share the same dream. You dig what I'm saying? And we've yet to realize that, right? And we've failed to realize and understand that the ideal of the American dream, and just for shits and giggles, right? Let me see, where do I have it at? The definition of an ideal, right, is satisfying one's conception of what is perfect or most suitable for them. We have failed to realize that we have been depending on our oppressor to satisfy what we understand is most suitable for us, instead of us taking our own actions and taking our own fate and our own futures into our own hands. You understand what I'm saying? And we failed to realize, right, that a dream connects us to the past, but it's also a gateway to our future.
Yeah. How do we start to unpack that as a collective, to identify what that dream even looks like for us?
So we already answered this question. See, this is the thing that we have to remember. We've answered this question as a people before. That's why our communities got flooded with crack. We've answered this question before. This is why they started making Black exploitation movies. We've answered these questions before because this is why they started allowing certain Black corporate Negroes to climb the ladder. We already answered this question. So that's both beautiful and it's painful. Let's not act like we haven't answered this question. And let's not act like once we came up with the answer, just like in chess, that are to Lethal's point, that our enemy didn't just take it and say that they then moved their piece. Now the question is what is our next and best move? Make your next move your best move. And we've already answered the question of what do we do? We have to control our culture. We have to control our narrative. We have to remember that even sellout Negroes wore afros back in the 60s. That's how hard we had to. Like even niggas that was rocking with white women knew that you could not roll through anywhere Black-ish without having an afro or at least 3 or 4 dashikis. We had set a standard in our community. We had set a standard with our children. All we have to do is to update that. Right. And that's what this show is really predicated upon. This show is about saying, listen, 7 generations. Let's go 3 generations back. Oh, boom. That sets us right in the 50s, 60s. That gives us James Baldwin. That gives us Malcolm X. That gives us that gives us all of, some. Now we're in the present. Now, what does this shit look like? What does it look like to take Black folks and make and own the culture, which is what I love what Lethal is saying, because that's really the conversation. How do we retake the streets? How do we recapture the hearts and minds of Black people and remove it out of the corporatocracy that has put Black people under a spell? And we've been under that spell before. Like I said, let's not get twisted. We've been under that spell before. We came out of that. We got to do that shit again.
Man, so you're saying something that's so key.
The thing is, we're humans, and we have needs, basic human needs, right? And if we take a look at Maslow's hierarchy of human needs, and we understand and we study that, right? It's hard to elevate oneself up to the top of that pyramid of self-actualization, where the execution of self-agency exists, when you're constantly kept at the bottom of that pyramid, focus on your basic human needs like security and food and shelter and clothing and things of that nature. And the best way that you can do that, if you are the enemy or the oppressor or the oppressing, is to simply deny opportunities of equality, which is what the country is actually predicated on. The American dream was never meant for the Negro.
But here's the crazy part about that, though, Lethal. We're not focused, even though I think that's what Jice be telling us. Mm-hmm. Even though we're in survival mode, we're not even focused on our fucking survival. We're focused on the $300 motherfucking Jordans and what Kim Kardashian is wearing. It would be different if Black people were actually focused on what you're saying, which is surviving. We're not focused on surviving.
But how do we find those standards when they've been lost? That value system has been lost. That mindset has been lost. Like we're even saying now, we used to have at least some good movies, some good music. I mean, that's far few and in between. So how do we even infuse this into a culture where all this is lost?
Quite frankly and honestly,
that shit. We got Black independent filmmakers. We have
right, but look at the views they're getting versus the views that everything else is getting. Yeah, when you sit here,
our ancestors said to steal Lethal's thunder. They've said that the road to freedom is very seldom traveled by the masses. So I think we also can't also look at what all of us are doing, or even what most of us are doing at any given point. Because let's be clear, most of us stayed on the plantation. Most of us. So if we were going to measure looking at most of us to what freedom looks like, then there wouldn't have been 150,000 of us that left the plantation in the first place. So this is what I loved about Jice saying, and actually what you were saying, Shay, we're distracted.
Yeah.
Even the healers are distracted. Yeah. Even those people who are supposed to hold the line for us are distracted. And that's the problem. It's not that we've lost the 90%, it's that the 5% are tripping like a motherfucker these days because they have drank the Kool-Aid too.
They have drank the Kool-Aid and they are looking at the applause as well, right? And so now when you know what comes with the applause and you know what you have to do to get the more likes and all these things, I'm looking at that. When you just said the healer has even that. I remember going to this one healer who was really, one of our people. And then I seen the shift because now you've become more commercial, that bank accounts got fatter. So now you don't even do the due diligence that you used to do. But now more people like you and now more people see you. So now you're living the American dream, right? So now we've lost you too.
We've lost you too.
What I think in that space is the few of us, the few percentage. If it ain't 5% of us, maybe it's 2 or 3% of us.
I hope it's 8%.
A couple of us. I think we have to start really working on putting the systems in place, because one of the things that Lethal always talks about is that we don't have community, right? And I would argue that a good part of Black America does have communities. And while, you can go into a lot of the larger cities and they might be more fraction, but if you're going to count where the majority of Black folks are, they're in the South and we have communities, right? Or at least we have physical locations that we exist together in mass numbers.
That's better, because community means they do things and they move together in unison, and they're not moving together in unison.
I would agree with that, but I want to. So the concentration, right, allows us to create some level of power if we were to actually leverage that and use it for our benefit, right? And so part of that is the fact that those power and resources are leveraged inside of institutions, which we don't have. And so I think, I think that our activist strategy really has to focus in on how do we begin to create institutions that can help to concentrate that power and help to grow those resources in ways that we can create not competition across the country, but really a space of collaboration, right? And this is some of the things that I've been thinking about as I'm working on like the next things that the Black Business Initiative is doing, putting together some of these meetings and things like that to bring leaders together to have these type of like think tank conversations where we can talk about these things. Because so often this country, it does a good job actually of creating a space of competition, right? When collaboration should exist. I should not be in competition with the organization that does Black economic development in California because I'm doing Black economic development in Denver or in Colorado. And so, but I can learn from an organization that is doing Black economic development in California, and I hope that they could learn something from me. So what I think is that if we can begin to really take the few of us, the handful of us, the 12 of us that are of a like mind to acknowledge that we need to house resources, we need to grow those resources, and we need to have agency and control over them, then I think that we can begin to create institutions so that our communities have places where they can gather, that have control over messaging that goes out, that have control over resources that go out. And somebody in the chat said that we need to use cancer culture appropriately. And that's been the space that I have struggled with, because I believe that when we try to call people out, and I've talked about this before, when we try to call people out, I think it creates an automatic space of defense, right? So instead of them looking and saying, what do I need to shift? It creates a space of defense. Sol and I talked about this several years ago, around how do we create, governing bodies or governing people, positions, right, that are trusted, that we can help shield to a certain extent so that they can be impartial to help us sort through some of the conflicts that leaders will inevitably have, because we are people. And I think we shouldn't romanticize this concept of creating like a utopia or a Wakanda, because even in Wakanda, they were having internal issues over power, right? So like control and struggle like that is a power thing. But part of that also comes into play when there is a lack of resources. So part of the reason why our leaders were able to focus on what they want to focus on is because a lot of their basic necessities were taken care of by the community that allowed them to focus on those things. But the other thing to remember is a lot of them also died poor and didn't leave nothing behind, right? So I think we have to think about our problems from a different perspective. And I think that there are other models and things that are going on because we are poisoned by this shitty ass version of capitalism. So we oftentimes only see things in one version or one way, which is a very poor example of what capitalism it could look like. And so I think we need to look at other models that are happening around the world.
We absolutely do. And let me ask you a question. I know we've talked about this before, and we're almost to the point where we'll get to our mindset moment. But as we're exploring that, is the solid option really that we should be exploring other countries? Or is that far-fetched and something that's going to come on the second string, third string? Or is this the next step?
Yes and no. Because again, to borrow my dear brother Lethal's rap lines, no matter where you go, there you are. So one of the problems that you have in Ghana is that niggas moved over to Ghana en masse, and black folks still stayed wherever, So the greater part of our issue is not where we're located. The greatest part of our issue is where our minds are located. That's the issue, is our mindset. So you could set niggas in paradise and we will find a way to make great Kool-Aid and to have the angels stripping in thongs while throwing ones at their ass. We will make a Wakanda into Magic City if you don't change your mindset. So I want us to be very clear like that. Like there's nowhere that we're going to go and then we become magically who we are, right? That's the first thing. Second thing, we are citizens, and this is true for people who see themselves as a powerful people. And it's the way I've trained my children. I know it's the way that Jice has trained her children. My children are not simply or even primarily citizens of the United States. My children are citizens of the world. They There's no place that they should not be able to go on this planet and exercise agency, right? Whether that be in Africa, whether that be in Asia, we were the first in all those places, right? Pick a city, right? So I teach my children that you are a citizen of the world. You are a global citizen. So don't get married to this idea of nationhood as America has sold it to you. You belong to a people, but you also belong to a nomadic people that have been nomadic from the beginning of time. So spin the globe and set your finger down, and I can show you where Black folks helped build and had nationhoods and spaces there. So yes, we should be thinking of where we can, and I realize I'm in my mindset moment. Yes, we should be thinking that on a global level and that we're global citizens. No, we should not think that simply changing our address is going to change our minds, because it will not. We will ask me how I know. I lived in Ghana. I saw how the United States uses Black Americans just like they use Black Americans in Liberia. 60, 70 years ago, and the Gates Rubber Company used Black Americans as the divisive force who would ultimately become Charles Taylor and issue and institute a diamond war that took hundreds and thousands, if not millions of lives. That's what happens when you send niggas back to Africa or wherever else instead of changing our mindset as we are going.
Ooh, it was literally a real mindset moment.
That was my mindset moment.
I'm glad you did that. That's real. You said something, no matter where we go. Man, there's so much to dig into now. And I'm like, okay, it's 4:47. I won't dig too deep into that. But there's so much to dig into that space. I think as we start to set our mindset moment, and we just address what this American dream could look like for Black people. What is our dream? How do we reset these values? How do we give our people a mindset moment, a mindset shift, and finding values that actually work for our culture as we try to build this culture back up? I'm going to go head over there to you, Jice.
Did she just use my whole government name?
Oh my God, I did. I didn't even mean to.
He said,
it was so natural. It was just really natural. It just flowed. Like, I don't even know.
Listen, Shay will be, you don't want me to
No,
go there.
we're not doing that. It was an accident. See, first of all, as a better culture, one offense does not mean someone else should do another offense. We should be better than that as a culture, okay? That's my mindset moment. You need to be a leader.
Wow.
Go ahead.
Not how you lead. Not how you.
Oh my goodness. Okay, so my mindset moment is, I feel like I think my mindset moment is travel. Like in the same way that we need representation, right? Like despite the fact that white capitalism capitalizes on representation for us, when we see positive representation for, and reflected in a variety of spaces, it does help, right? It does let you see what you could be, what you could have, where you could go, right? It gives you that 50 feet into the fog so you can see the next 50 feet in, right? I think that in that same space, like we need to have experiences that allow us to see outside of these, the walls of this country. It's so unfortunate that I know Black folks who haven't left the state. They don't leave
their
the
state.
City. Right. I mean, I just seen somebody post like they are native Coloradans and they just posted their first trip to Lookout Mountain. And I'm saying
that's 15 minutes. 15 minutes, by the way, y'all. That's a
that's what I said.
I was like, wait, I'm so confused. Like you're almost 40 and you've never gone 15 minutes into the foothills to look at Lookout Mountain. I don't understand, right? I mean, and I know so many, like I have talked to people about the places I've been just in Colorado and they're like, yeah, I'm from Colorado. I've never been to Red Rocks. I've never been, you know, and I know the same thing, you know, I come from the Bay Area. I know people who don't leave, like they'll leave Oakland, but they don't leave the Bay Area, right? Like they don't leave anywhere. So you have a really limited perspective. And it's more than I took a trip to Vegas or I took a trip to Miami and walked the beach. Like go somewhere, taste some food, experience some culture, go see some other, you know, museums, go see some other shows, go experience something else, right? Because one of the things that I found is that one, you find Blackness everywhere. It doesn't matter where we go. It doesn't matter where, you know, what we do, our culture, parts of our history are going to come out of the woodworks everywhere. But the other thing is that it lets you see that Africa is not, you know, starving babies with flies eating out their face. Like that's not what it is, right? And it lets you see that there are places like Europe is full of Black folks all over the place, right? It's not just, you know, the Queen and some cookies and some fish and chips, right? I mean, it gives you a perspective that there are us everywhere, that our cultures are vast, and that there are opportunities that exist outside of what we currently see. And I think that is the start to your point. So you're right. It's not going to be that we're going to go somewhere and that's going to change everything. But once you start to experience other things, it opens up your mind in a way like nothing else ever could.
Yeah. Great mindset moment.
That's great. Travel, y'all. Go see something. Know better. And I think that's such a real great point. I normally don't comment on your mindset moments, but that's a great point because so many times you don't know what's available. You don't even know what you don't know. Yeah. Like you have no idea. When I moved to Mexico, literally everybody was telling me like, oh, they're going to get you. You know, I had this whole total mindset like, I'm about to get got. This is going to be crazy. I already know what's about to happen. Like I already was preparing myself, and it was nothing like that whatsoever. Yeah. Nothing like what I heard. Yeah. So yes, please experience it for yourself. The Proverbs of Proverbs. I leave it to you. What is your mindset moment to shift this from a 7-generational mindset? What can we do to help prepare our people to even figure out what we value for our dream? We need to help the collective.
I got a couple here for the audience and us right here. First, to the brother's point about using cancel culture appropriately, and to Jice's point about how calling people out, it causes a greater division, right?
Right.
I would say, do not correct fools, for they will hate you. Correct the wise ones, for they will appreciate you.
Ooh, shit. That's my post on Facebook tomorrow.
Right.
I was like, can you break that down for me?
Now,
I got you on that one. I'm posting
now. Here's another one for all of our people to think about, right? If you've already escaped from the lion's den, why the fuck are you going back for your hat?
Oh, my hat. I need my hat. I got to get my hat.
Think about that, right? Think about that. And just real two more real quick, right?
Keep going.
The lion and sheep may lay down together, but the sheep won't get any sleep. Y'all understand what I'm saying to you? And this is the last one I want y'all to think about, right? Because we always talk about how
none of us got nothing good to say.
But it's always like we're a minority, we're a small group of people. What can we possibly do, right?
We're the global majority.
So in America, right? When we talk about our people, and I'm not correcting the brother, so I'm just reminding him that it's 85-10-5. You understand what I'm saying? 85 who are the sleep sheep, 10 who are aware but sold out, and it's that 5% who's holding it down for the masses, right? Understand this: 5%, 2% doesn't matter. You know why? Because our ancestors said a flea can trouble a lion more than a lion can trouble a flea.
Amen.
Yes, all right. I had to make sure I knew which one was a lion and the flea. I had to break it down. I was like, please, move, carry the one. All right, I got it. No, this has been been real. And, you know, our people, it's a lot to take in. And when you think about what we're taking in every single day, I want people to really be conscious of what that is you're taking in, what you are feeding yourself. And I hope you're surrounding yourself about people that really enforce you to rethink your values, rethink your vision, rethink your dreams, for your personal, individual dreams, and for what you have for the collective. And I hope we start thinking about our babies 7 generations out, y'all, because they are going to need us more now than ever. It is a hard world out here, but it can get better if we do our part as a collective and we really team up together. I promise you we can go so much further together than we can individually. So team up and meet us back here next Tuesday, 4 p.m. Mountain Standard Time, so we can jump into, you know, it's all Black things. So we're talking all things Black. Again, if you have something you want to hear 7 generations talk about, let us know. And then don't forget, meet us on December 6th. It's going down. It's our ultimate, is it December 6th? I lied. December 4th, because this is a new year. It is our ultimate vision board party. It's time to fix that mindset, get on that money, and really get to our manifestation. Make sure you catch us here. This year is going to be like we do every year. It gets bigger and better every year, no matter what we do. And this is just another thing that got bigger and better. Joining us this year, this is powered by none other than Righteous Rage Institute, the IF Foundation, BBI, and CTN Media. Sounds will be by DJ K-Tone. You want to meet us there, you guys. When I tell you this year is going to be absolutely phenomenal, go grab your seat, reserve your seat. Remember, it's free for the community. We do have some VIP tables, limited space, and then vendors. If you're a vendor, you want to be a part of our holiday market, there are still vendor slots available. So go ahead and check us out at www.bbiprofessional.com. Grab your ticket, grab your vendor slot, and meet us at the Ultimate Vision Board Party and Black Market. Mindset, money, and manifestation. Until next time, peace and love, family, and keep hustling for your 7 generations Black. We love y'all.